Hello, family. So, welcome back. This is going to be another suggestion or recommendation for books you can read with your children. Now, this book is a book that has been around for a while. I actually grew up reading this book. My mother used to read it to me. And so, if you remember from one of my last videos, I talked about how I love when you're able to share books that you enjoyed as a kid with your children or children that you are working with, because they get to feel that. They get to experience the joy that you feel reading those books. So be sure that you do that from time to time. Don't just follow the kids' interests, although you should do that. But you also should have moments where you're giving them what once meant so much to you. So today we're going to talk about a book that this version actually was copyrighted in 1968. I believe it is a fable that had been around and then someone transcribed it and then put it in a book. But it is called Stone Soup. So this is the version that I grew up reading. So it was about a young man meeting an old woman. And there are many different versions now because it has been around for so long. So there's different books with different illustrations. There's different books that have different endings that tweak it a little bit, but the premise is still the same. The storyline is following a person or persons that meets another person or group of people, and they are asking for food. And in asking for food, the other people are saying, no, we don't have it, or that person says, no, we don't have it. And in this book, it's a young man to a woman, and he says, okay, well, if you don't have any food, how about, do you have a stone? And if you have a stone, I can make soup from it. And so the older woman is intrigued, like, how can you make soup from a stone? And so she says, well, there's stones on the walkway, like on the path. And so he says, okay, he goes and gets the stone. He says, well, can I have a pot and some water, right? So I can make the soup. And so she's intrigued, like, you're gonna really make soup from a stone? And so he starts boiling this stone. And as he's boiling the stone, he says, you know, this is really cooking really fast. It's really good, but it'll cook faster if I had some onions with it. And so she goes out to the garden she said she didn't have. She goes out to the garden and she gets some onions and she puts the onions in there. And so he just keeps going along saying different things like, oh, if we had this ingredient, or oh, if we had that, it really can help the soup cook faster. And in the end, he basically cooks a full meal because he's asking her for the ingredients she said she didn't have, that now she is giving freely because she's so invested in seeing Stone Soup, come to pass. So this is an interesting book because as you go through it with your kid, you can ask questions, because really what we're focused on, we want to make sure that children aren't just taught how to read, but they're taught comprehension as well. So we want to make sure that children are reading and then understanding what they're reading. So part of that is having dialogue, talking to them about what they're noticing, what they're picking up. So even with toddlers, you can ask questions like, what's happening here? And what's going on with this character, so that they can start to think about it. How do you think this character feels? Or what do you think this person is feeling? So I just told you he's asking for soup. He's asking for food. What do you think he's feeling? A question like that should yield a response of, he's probably hungry, right? And so we can talk about, like, have you ever felt hungry? Yeah, me too. Don't you want something good to eat when you're hungry? Yeah. So that's what he's asking for. Now, would you give food to someone who's asking for it if they're hungry? Those are type of questions that are character development type of questions. So you're asking them about what type of person they want to be in this world. So who do you identify with? Are you the person asking for food? Do you feel like you always are asking people for other things? Or are you the person who's like, hey, you're a stranger, get away from here? Now, this is a good conversation for older kids. So if you have school-age children and you're talking about, hey, here's someone coming to your door asking you for something. Now, a good person will give to those who are in need. have that conversation, absolutely. But you also want to put in there, let's talk about safety issues as well. So I always talk to kids about, hey, what did that make you feel? Because if we can teach them to listen to their gut and trust their gut, like, because the thing is that sometimes we feel scared, but everybody else around us looks comfortable. And so we change ourselves. We don't listen to our inner voice because we're like, well, they are laughing with that person and they seem like they're comfortable with that person. So maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe I'm not really understanding the situation. Maybe I don't have enough information. And you talk yourself out of what your spirit said was unsafe. And now you put yourself in an unsafe situation because now you're training yourself not to listen to that voice inside of you, not to listen to your gut, not to listen to your spirit. So these are things that we want to cultivate in children. We want them to understand how to hear themselves or trust themselves, how to listen to their spirit, how to listen to their gut and trust that, because they know what is safe for them and what's unsafe for them. So that's something that you could talk about while going through the book. You would talk about how would you know to, open your door to someone who's a stranger? How would you know, like, talk about those things so that you can pass on the wisdom that you have to them. Now, I will caution you, let's not share our fears. Let's not pass down our anxieties to the next generation. That's really, really hard because we think that our anxieties and our fears are keeping us safe. But in reality, we're perpetuating something that may never happen to them. So you're teaching them things that you feel is, wise, or you think that it's going to keep them safe. But in actuality, when you take that fear, that was a natural reaction to something that you endured or you experienced, and you put it into a different context, you put it into a different circumstance or environment, it actually isn't protective. It now becomes something that is more limiting. And so you're now giving your kids, instead of giving them wisdom that will help protect them, you're now giving them bondage. And so you have to be careful with that. And so one of the things that I always suggest is that you should be praying for wisdom. I'm a Christian. I believe that God speaks to his people. And if you take time to cultivate that relationship with the Holy Spirit, he will speak back to you. So I would say, Lord, I want to teach my kid this. I want to tell them how to protect themselves. Can you give me the words? Can you help me to understand? Because there may be things that your child's going to go through that you've never gone through, and you don't have the wisdom from firsthand experience, but you can have it from God. You can have that wisdom from God to pass it down to your kids. So I want you to, think about that. Think about the things that you're teaching your kid and ask yourself, like, will this be beneficial for them? Is this the world that they're entering into? So to teach a child, never trust anyone, isn't very beneficial, because on one hand, yes, that makes it seems like it keeps them safe. But on the other hand, there are times in your life where you might need to ask a stranger for help. And if you are taught never trust anyone, then you're inadvertently, implicitly teaching your child that they have to figure everything out on their own. They can't let other people in. And that's not how you do life successfully. You cannot do life alone. It's too hard, and it was never designed for that. We're supposed to do it in community. And sometimes you have to meet new people to enlarge your community. So I'm going to stop there, but I'll get back to the book. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there so you can consider that. So as you're going through the book, you can ask your child, like, what do you think is going on? So when he starts asking for different vegetables that should be added to the soup or different ingredients, ask your child, what do you think's going on? How do you think he's going to make soup out of a stone? Like, ask that question as you keep going further, and they might jump to the conclusion like they're making soup because they're adding the ingredients. And that's good, because you want them to kind of anticipate and think ahead about how the conclusion of the book might turn out. So just asking questions along the way as you go through the book. Other questions you might ask are about the characters. So do you think that this is a good guy? Do you think that this is a bad woman? Do you think that he means ill towards her? Do you think that she means ill towards him? Just asking those kind of questions just to see where your child is, just to see their understanding of the world. It's sometimes you're not always giving them information. Sometimes you're just collecting information so you understand how your child understands the world. That way, when you do need to give information, you can give information in a way that they can receive it because you understand how they think, how they understand. Another thing is that when they sit down at the end, they actually have soup together. You can ask your child, how does that make them feel? Like, what do you think about this? Do you think that this is a good thing? Do you think that it's a bad thing? Ask them about the feelings that they're feeling as you're going through the book, as the story is revealing itself. So not just waiting to the end of the book to ask all the questions. You don't want to do that, because you're trying to develop in your child this ability to engage with the text. So we don't want to wait until the end and then now try to review everything. We want their mind to get into the habit of churning while they're hearing the story, while it's unfolding. What do you think is going to happen? Sometimes when I'm going through a book, I get to a point where, you know, it's really, really interesting. And I ask my kid, like, before I turn the page, what do you think is going to happen on the next page? And then we talk about it, we think about it. And then I ask them, do you want to find out? So this idea that we have to continue on in order to get the information that we want. Like, we want to know what's going to happen at the end. We want to know how this is going to turn out. We make it exciting. If reading is boring, who wants to do that, right? But reading can be very exciting, especially when you teach your child how to engage with the text. When you teach your child how to put themselves into the text. When you ask, which character would you rather play? Oh, I would rather be him, or I would rather be her. Why? Let's talk about that. Which one would you rather be, and why? Why would you want to be? Because she had all the ingredients. Okay, great. That tells you something about your child. I want to be him because he was smart and he figured out a way to get the soup that he wanted. Wow, that tells you something about your child, right? I want to be her because she has on a pretty dress. That tells you something about your child. That doesn't mean it's any less than the well thought out. No, we're just collecting information about your child, and we're understanding how they understand, because later on we're going to use that information to teach them and develop them further. So I love Stone Soup. This is a book that you can go through with your kid, and you have these conversations, and then afterwards you would ask things like, hey, how would you change the story? For the older kids, they really can get into that, right? You can ask questions like, where do you think he got the idea? Now, that's not in the book at all. There's no evidence that he was taught this. There's no evidence that he read about it somewhere. There's no evidence or information that tells us how he thought of this idea on making stone soup. So this is really only going to come from your child and what they come up with. Now, sometimes kids answer, I don't know. I get that all the time. I don't know. And that's okay. Sometimes you really don't know. But when they say, I don't know, I repeat back to my kid, you don't know? And I just hold it there. Because sometimes they just need time to think. Like, sometimes I don't know is the easy answer to get the attention off of me, right? Like, I don't know. And then everyone looks away and you're like, well, actually, I do know. I had time to think about it. So sometimes giving them space to just think about it. Like, well, think about it. Did you give yourself time to think about it? Just ask them and then wait. It's not pressuring them. That's why it's good to carve out time to do this. So you're not under the gun. You're not trying to race out the door. You're not trying to do something else. Your phone is put away in another room. There's no TV on, no distractions, and you get time to really process your child through this. Another rendition of the book is this one here, Stone Soup. And this one's a little different because they used pigs and other animals in the book to reveal the story. And what's interesting about this book is they are two people that are wandering and are asking for food, and then they ask the community for the ingredients, and so they really bring in the community. And I like that aspect of this book. This is why I purchased this book too, in addition to the other one I already had, because I did like this aspect of how to get the community involved. And so it's a really good book to be able to ask your kids about, like, the importance of other people in their life and how other people can help enrich their life. Because some community members, they had certain ingredients where others brought different ingredients, and because they had different ingredients and they all brought it together, they had a richer soup. They were able to have a lot of ingredients. So it's a way to talk to kids about how people may have different things, but when we come together, we can really make something very special. And so asking questions along the way about that. and just asking them what they think about the characters and how they view the characters along the way. So I think that, you know, either version is a great story. It is something that you can ask many questions and have great conversation with your kids about. Again, this is just a starting point. You're going to come up with brilliant things to ask your kids in the moment. And if you use this and you have those conversations, let me know, because I just like to hear about how the magic of reading really develops in future generations. And so please let me know if you read this book, if you have read this book, if you have those conversations with your kids, what comes out of it. Let me know, because that just fuels me, and I'll, you know, stay on here, because, you know, y'all, I'll be here and there. Okay, so I just wanted to come on here, share this book. I want to thank you guys for watching this. You know, subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things to, you know, keep me accountable and keep me coming back. All right, so thank you again. Happy reading.